And after I showed Grand Zeno a great time, he said, anything you want, name it and it's yours, Goku. And I said, I only want 3 things, Grand Zeno. I want you to allow angels to marry mortals if they want to, and I also want you to allow them to do whatever they want if they fight and want to kill bad people, allow it, and I just want your friendship, and also I'd like it if you never erase my universe because I worked very hard to keep it, sir. And Zeno said, I like you a lot, Goku, I really do, your requests are granted. And Daishinkan said, but sire, what about my children? And Zeno said, my word is law, they may do what they wish as long as it's not evil, I'm fine with it, Daishinkan, and you should be too, old friend. And he said, okay sire, understood. And I said, I'd also like it if everyone fights in your tournament of power, and if the universe loses it gets erased, even mine, and I want every universe to compete, and I want to participate in this tournament of power along with my friends and family. And Zeno said, done. And I giggled and said, thanks Zenny. And Zeno said, I'm glad you brought up the tournament, I was going to do it anyway, but I kinda forgot until you mentioned it, so thanks Goku. And I said, no problem Zenny. And then I created a friend for Zeno, one just like him, and he said, yay, another me. And then they said, can we see you again in another tournament very soon? And I suggested that we could have a warm-up tournament very soon, and I also want to fight in that tournament too, and so that's how it got done. And now my son Gohan is now fighting Basil from Universe 9, and Gohan is now just like me. And he smirked and said, you're a bunch of rookies, me and my father have been doing this for years, he taught us all to never stop training, we rest and sleep if we have to, but we train every day, we never stop training, and that's why I'm going to win. And then Gohan easily beat Basil. And then my daughter Ice fought Lavender, and she said, interesting, a poison key user, she said out loud. And then Lavender said, how did you know that, beautiful? And she scowled and said, because our father taught us everything about lower beings like you, and so did our mother, you are beneath me, little doggy. And Lavender said, I'm not a dog, I'm a fox, you heartless winch. And she said, well, that's much of an improvement, is it? And I said loudly, go get him, sweetheart. And Ice blushed and said, dad. And Lavender said, your father seems like a wonderful father and a nice guy. And she said, looks can be deceiving, he just loves his family, make no mistakes, he's still everyone as ants compared to him. And then my daughter Ice knocked out Lavender with a lightning fast punch, and she said, you were never going to win against a member of the Cold family. And then I stepped into the ring and I said, hi Bergamo, and before he could speak I gave him a mighty knockout punch to his head, so powerful his powers couldn't process it. And then Toppo decided to fight me, and I said, your name is Toppo of Universe 11, you work with the Pride Troopers as their leader, and Jairam the Grey, I believe, should be the leader of the Pride Troopers, not you. And he started to say, I'm a villain, and I interrupted him and I said, you have been misinformed, sir, I'm not a villain. Zeno was going to do it anyway, holding this tournament, you can ask him yourself, he's right there in the stands, he can confirm this, he actually wants to erase most of you, but this tournament of power gives you all a fighting chance, especially since I'm in it. Your Jiren is the wrong person for the job because he will doom you all for foolish and selfish reasons. I'm trying to save you all from a terrible fate, so to hell with all of your nonsense talk of justice. And I spat on the ground, besides big guy, you're punching above your weight class, we are the #1 universe and I am the strongest person in my universe, so you can fight one of my sons. I have no time or inclination to indulge you in your farce of heroics when you know not the meaning of the word justice. And he said, not so fast, and he stopped me with his hand and he touched me, and I said, you have about a count of 3 to remove your hand. I said 1, I powered up to my legendary Super Saiyan form, and then I said 2, then I went legendary Super Saiyan 2, and then Toppo started to realize something was definitely wrong with my powers, it was off the charts. And then I went to my Berserk Super Saiyan 4 legendary transformation, and I said, so you want to fight, little man, now you will get it. And now I towered above Toppo in my legendary Super Saiyan 4 form, and he said, I must slay you, demon. And I said, fool, and I backhanded him across the face, and then I appeared behind him in an instant and I started laughing like a true villain. And Toppo said, you're pure evil. And I said, you have the wrong idea about me, if I wanted to kill you I could do it easy. And you give Jiren a message, tell him I'm coming for him in the tournament, tell him to be ready, but it still won't matter, he will lose to me and I will win, fool.